From the outset, there is a vivid importance in being seen in the media in which we partake. The inclusion of a female protagonist in Persona 3 Portable is an exceptional example of this fact. From her struggles with smiling depression, loneliness, and apathy, to her distinctly cheerful and energetic personality, she is a thoroughly relatable character to so many unique individuals. She is not simply a clone of Makoto, but a new character with so much to offer. She is Kotone Shiomi, and she has a place in Persona 3. Before I enter the bulk of this video, I would like to take a moment to appreciate the absolutely beautiful comments left by many viewers on the original video. I find it incredible that so many could resonate with Kotone. It makes me truly glad that Kotone was added in Persona 3. Additionally, there were a lot of interesting insights and a fair bit of criticism that we must unpack. If you haven't watched the first video, I recommend you do so to best contextualize what I'm about to talk about, though if you haven't, I will be reintroducing concepts more in depth to make this a standalone video in itself. Smiling depression is a term used to describe someone who has a cheery and positive exterior, while bearing feelings of hopelessness, insecurity, apathy, and heartache internally. This is the form of depression that Kotone suffers from. To be clear, smiling depression is a manifestation of major depressive disorder, MDD, and not its own unique diagnosis. It arises for a multitude of reasons, such as a defense or coping mechanism, the pursuit of positivity, and conforming to societal norms and expectations. Anyone can suffer from this type of depression. This form of depression is particularly dangerous to the individual, as many who suffer from the disorder do not appear depressed or recognize themselves as such. This makes it much harder to get treatment, and they're often stigmatized as, quote, too happy, end quote, to be depressed. This culminates toward darker thoughts and dire consequences. Before getting into some of the main comments I would like to cover, I would like to start with a lightning round to clear up a bunch of misconceptions about Kotone. Firstly, Kotone is canon. She is present in the Q2 games, and just because she comes from a different timeline does not make her any less canon. In addition, even if she wasn't canon, this does not detract from the real value that she adds in perspective to the game. Second, I've seen a lot of people hating on Kotone for the fact that Shinji lives. This does not in any way detract from Kotone's character. Whether you find value in Shinji surviving or not, this event is player optional. If you choose to save him, the game still fits the themes, as Akihiko and Ken's resolutions still hinge on the fact that Shinji is in a coma and is unlikely to ever wake up due to his reliance on his pills. And honestly, watching Akihiko's resolution with Shinji in the hospital room is heartrending to say the least. The last thing I'm going to cover in this section is that smiling depression exists. It is real, and is a term used by medical professionals. Many people mask their pain with laughter and smiles. Saying it doesn't exist invalidates so many people's real experiences, and that is something I cannot abide by. The reason it does not have an entry in the DSM-5 is because it, in itself, is depression. Furthermore, depression is not a monolith of symptoms, it is different for everyone. There are so many comments that I want to cover, from informed criticism of my video to new evidence important in telling Kotone's story and revealing her character. However, unfortunately I can't cover them all. If you have any thoughts or additions that I may have missed out on, please leave them down below. First and foremost, I will attempt to correct an oversight from my original video about Kotone. Here, I will speculate about Kotone and Makoto's psychology and emotional socialization, rather than providing solid evidence beyond an informed hypothesis. Skip to the next section with the time card on the screen right now if you want to return to an in-game analysis of Kotone. As two commenters pointed out, my original analysis lacked any specific mention of Kotone's gender concerning how she copes with her depression. Here, I am certainly not saying that just because Kotone is a girl, she feels a certain way, or that just because Makoto is a boy, he feels a certain way. In fact, there is inherently no prominent physiological difference between a male and female brain. In addition, I am in no part attempting to discount the fact that Kotone and Makoto are different people, with different personalities. Instead, I am referring to the position that a sociological component impacts the internalization of emotions for both them and attempting to add a psychological perspective into the discussion. To be even more direct, much of the differences between gendered behaviors originate from environmental or inherited genetic factors, not from their sex. It is clear that Kotone and Makoto's depression originated at the same point, the Moonlight Bridge, where their parents perished 10 years before the events of the main game. Though Kotone and Makoto are identical in the origin of their depression, they cope with it in dramatically separate ways. Makoto is quiet, introverted, and non-expressive in his depression. He is emotionally blunted, disconnected from his feelings, and generally apathetic towards his surroundings, and for his own physical well-being. From these general observations, one could judge that Makoto's emotional socialization follows a pattern for how men are socialized to treat their emotions. He is emotionally withdrawn and listless, in part because of the environment he finds himself, where society expects men to internalize their feelings and remain stoic and, quote, manly, end quote. Conversely, Kotone is subject to an environment where society expects women to communicate with their peers about their emotions. But, of course, this begs the question of who is she to turn to? While speculative, there is good reason to believe that Kotone, up until the events of the game, has not had a meaningful connection with any of her peers. She has not had the opportunity to be able to do so, as she and Makoto have moved around their entire lives. So, to make those relationships, Kotone turned to presenting herself as friendly and cheerful in a bid to forge those relationships with others, while Makoto remained closed off. In addition, she may believe it's her responsibility to hold up the morale of C's, and in that effort she hides her pain so that no one sees her hurting or as a burden. Above all, she desperately does not want to be lonely. While not subsuming the entire discussion for why Kotone puts on a smile when facing immeasurable internal strife, as we are unfamiliar with Kotone's backstory besides a few hints here and there, a psychological and sociological analysis certainly adds another lens for why Kotone may behave this way. While much of this is speculative based on what little we know from the game, I hope I have made a suitable case for this explanation. Side note, if you enjoy content like this and would like to see more of it in the future, please consider subscribing. It really goes a long way in supporting our channel. Thank you, and now back to the video. Next, I would like to talk about the in-game music that plays in the background of Persona 3 Portable. Oftentimes, Persona lyrics bear deeper meanings pertaining to the character in which they reference. For instance, the song Invitation to Freedom, that references the Phantom Thieves in Persona Q2, hinges on the themes of freedom, action, and rebellion. You can tell a meaning of the song from the instruments they use, the lyrics, to its tempo. Themes are quite noticeably present in the soundtrack that plays during Kotone's route in game, in both Persona 3 Portable and Persona Q2. While I'm not a musicologist, I will do my best in providing a brief analysis of her songs Way of Life, Time, and Pull the Trigger. In the main traveling theme, Way of Life, the lyrics are relatively somber, hinting at loneliness, losing trust in others, and self-doubt, while instrumentals are poppy, seeming to almost obfuscate these notes. Speaking in the past tense, the singer is reminiscing on a relationship they lost in the past in an ever-changing world. Evidently, they sing about lights fading away that nobody seems to give any mind to, with a line, "Lights fell and dispersed in the air. Nobody stopped to see them fade." The first semester Gekkoukan theme, Time, gives much credence to the ideas of change and finding one's place in the world. The singer speaking about the old air moving by as lone air comes to replace it. In the song, the backing instrumentals switch from a nostalgic, wistful mood to a more animated and lively one. The lyrics, however, do not change all too much in terms of theme. They still emanate this distinct message of being alone and feeling lost as time marches forward. The lyrics, "I know how you feel," beyond your words, are important to note when considering Kotone. And interestingly enough, in true Persona fashion, The motifs of time are present in After School and Tender Feelings. Tender Feelings having interesting implications as it is only present in a few social links, in real heart-to-heart scenes. Finally, the last track I'd like to cover is the FEMC battle track in Persona Q2, Pull the Trigger. It is an energetic and dynamic song, all about moving beyond the paralysis of indecision and made mistakes, with lyrics such as, "Some of my regrets come hunting me till this day. Choice I made, it was wrong." And, "I'm scarred up, but I'm feeling good. Move destiny, I'm coming through." It's all about coming to the realization that you are not alone in your struggles, and that there are people willing to support you. Additionally, it is a song about making choices, learning from them, and moving to change reality alongside others, beyond dread and frustration. If you haven't played Q2 or watched my previous video, this song makes a lot more sense in context. Two pieces of Kotone media that I left out in my original video were the stage play, Persona 3 The Masquerade, and the series of audio dramas released in 2010. While I had both items under my radar, I ultimately decided not to include them due to time constraints in crafting the original video. Though the audio drama may not have any compelling evidence concerning Kotone's condition, the stage play has some things to look at. For the sake of time, I will bring up one of the notable examples earlier in the stage play, when Yukari sings Brand New Days. When Yukari breaks out in song after speaking about the death of her father, she choreographs reaching out to Kotone, urging her to form a real social connection with her. Kotone denies her outreached palm and walks away. After that, during the song, they remain relatively distant as Yukari follows Kotone around the stage. Ultimately, Kotone pushes Yukari away. While the same event happens in Makoto's route, one could ultimately make the argument that this solidifies her being hesitant to make real connections, dissimilar to how Makoto is emotionally withdrawn. Persona 3 is a game about remembering that one day you will die. It's not about overcoming death or embracing it. It is about living, truly living. It is also a game about taking responsibility in the choices that we make. Kotone unmistakably matches these themes of memento mori and responsibility. In her heart, she lives with past regrets, but it doesn't paralyze her as she now lives with determination. And at the end of Persona 3, Kotone achieves the Universe Arcana. The Universe, the card that reflects the end of one's journey, also symbolizes the finding of one's place in the world. That is what I believe Kotone has done. That is the journey in which she undertook. The Universe is the ultimate card of beginning and end, the story of life that transcends possibility. In the end, time is limited, so we must spend our lives living meaningfully. How do we do that? That is for you to figure out. Thank you for watching.